All right, Tyler Perry fans. Now, thanks so much for tuning in. I definitely urge you, if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button as well as the bell icon there so you can get notifications whenever I post new videos on the channel. Now, this is again, I'm not going to lie, I kind of love these open discussion videos somewhat a little bit more than, like episode reviews or theory videos, because I feel like I'm really able to just open the mic up to discussion. I give my thoughts, read the comments, and go from there. But in this video now, I just want to make it clear that I am not a Tyler Perry hater. That is definitely not the case, because haters out there are the ones who really get a lot of views. It's easy to critique someone, bash their projects and whatnot, but if anything, I admire Tyler Perry a lot. His work ethic, his belief, just the way he does things, So when it comes down to it, I've talked a lot about how the haves and the have not, if loving you is wrong, a lot of his shows don't seem to have that same level of quality that they had in their premiere seasons, due to the fact that it seems that Tyler Perry is definitely spreading his plate, spreading himself too thin, and he has too much on his plate. And that really shows, because the quantity of his work outside of OWN has definitely expanded, not to mention the fact that he's leaving OWN for Viacom soon. He's already working on projects for the shift in management, if you will. So I guess you could say that actually shows in his work. Now, again, this video isn't to bash Tyler Perry, but I just wanted to just have an open mind, because there are a lot of things I've actually been thinking about lately in regards to, the haves and the have not, as well as his other shows on OWN. We've already talked on the channel about, oh wow, why did he bring back the Pains? I mean, was that just a cheap shot where it's like, oh well, I was obligated by OWN to have one more TV show, so let me just revive this show that fans are familiar with, and just I turned in my notice. I'm just going to coast my last week of work by just turning in anything. Because a lot of fans were kind of like, why didn't he bring back another show like Too Close to Home? Or instead of making that show The Pains, why not focus more time on the haves and the have not, if loving you is wrong? Pretty much, why didn't you bring back Meet the Browns? And the list goes on. Then you look at the fact that if loving you is wrong and have nots, the plots have been just dragging. So, in the early seasons, things didn't get resolved super quickly, but at the same time, the show felt contained in terms of the things that went on in the haves and the have-nots. For the most part, seemed very believable in terms of, yeah, Tyler Perry, I know what you mean. You said you grew up and you've seen these kind of things in your neighborhood and, as you moved on in life. But then you get to like Charles and all these other murders and stuff. It just seems way too unbelievable to actually happen, not to mention all these characters on like Eddie, if loving you is wrong, or Veronica or Candace, these characters who seem to get away with almost anything. It's like they never get their comeuppance, even when it seems like they're getting what they deserve. They just get out of whatever situation it is, and instead of learning and growing as characters, all they want to do is just get revenge on an even higher scale than the karma that was dealt out to them. But I want to just talk about like numbers and quality over quantity and things like that. And just try to put yourself, or at least I'm trying to put myself in Tyler Perry's shoes, because I feel like I've done enough videos and whatnot where I've stated my opinion based off my perspective. But let me just try to shift gears and imagine I were Tyler Perry, and why would I be doing so many things instead of focusing and maintaining a level, if not maintaining, but improve the level of quality in the work that I already have established. Now, I think about Jamie Foxx, for example. Jamie Foxx, Jamie Foxx show. Well, I believe before that he was in Living Color. He did a few stand-up specials, and then eventually the Jamie Foxx show. And after that, he put out like a couple albums, I believe. I know the first one I was in middle school was like, I don't know, people might not like the music, but Unpredictable is definitely one of my favorite songs. I wouldn't say it's in my top 50, but it's still one of my favorite songs that I remember from, just middle school. Yeah, I think I was in middle school. It was like, girl, get comfortable. I know people talking about my singing, but you know, there was like auto tune and stuff in that song. I know Ludacris was on there. Tonight we're getting unpredictable, so try to notice, baby. I mean, I know it was weird because, you know, I was in middle school, but I hadn't hit puberty in terms of my voice because I never really talk a lot. So my voice now sounds way different from when I was in like high school or middle school. It was more like, I wouldn't say Michael Jackson soft, but it was like, you know, I could do like the Donald Duck voice and everything. But that's my voice was so like light and young. And then I think maybe when I hit senior year or my first year of college, that's when the baritone or whatever you call it just came in out of nowhere. So yeah, that kind of sucked because Donald Duck voice is one of my favorites to do. But that's aside the point. What I'm talking about here, Jamie Foxx, you know, did a couple albums, was like Just Like Me. I remember that song. Then I think if I'm not mistaken, like his biggest song was Blame It. Blame it on the That's I know that won BET's Top 100 during New Year's, like Top 100 music videos. I knew it was going to win because the year before, Usher's Love in This Club was in the top 3. I think it was number 2. I think it lost to Lil Wayne, a million. I'm sorry, I'm not really a Lil Wayne fan. There are a couple songs I like, but I do not know his music that well. I know Lick It Like a Lollipop, and then A Millionaire, and I know he's just walking through like the studio or whatever, and How to Love. That was a pretty good song. So yeah, I'm not against Lil Wayne. I've just only got a couple songs I actually like. My sister, if she was born behind the mic, she could actually just talk about these people all day. But what I mean is, you know, Jamie Foxx made his mark on music, but in my opinion, he didn't really have that many hits. I feel like the most, and to me personally, growing up, you know, I was born in 91, I grew up watching his work. His song from the Jamie Foxx show, I think it was the one he sung to Fran or Fancy. It was like, you know, this is our wedding day. Again, I'm not even going to try to sing that song. That was just, I feel like that would be disrespectful to Jamie Foxx to try to sing that song. But it was very beautiful. I mean, to me, Blame It, you know, is his probably biggest hit. But that wedding song, that's probably like the song I always remember Jamie Foxx for. And then out of nowhere, it's like he kind of disappeared from the music scene and then just focused on acting because, as a lot of people said, you know, hey, you know, Jamie Foxx, he's good, but acting is where the money is. So that's why he made the transition from, like, you know, artist to actor. And I'm not mad at him because it's really the money. And I guess you could say, and that's the reason I brought the example of Jamie Foxx. She Got Her Own. I believe, who was in that song? I love her 'cause she got her own. I know Neo is in it. I know Jamie Foxx is in it. I forgot who the third guy is, but that is one of my, I love that song. That's one of my favorites. But when I think about Tyler Perry, you know, compared to Jamie Foxx, you think about, you know, how I'll never forget one of the favorite videos, like, you know, inspirational videos, like, you know, I know Will Smith had a video where he talks about, you know, determination and stuff like that. Steve Harvey, when he talks about taking that leap of faith. And Tyler Perry is like, Tyler Perry is like wearing like a blue tracksuit, sitting at his desk, and he's like, you know, hey, I was getting ready to go out and, you know, do my, you know, to-do list or whatever. Basically, his things to do for that day, but he wanted to make a quick video about focusing and harnessing your talent, focusing on one thing and going from there. And I'll never forget it because there was a point where I think I was, you know, my third semester on campus as a college student. I would watch this every day. Every day I would watch it. He talked about, you know, how when he first got started, you know, aside from living out of his car and whatnot, he would set up his own plays, but nobody would show up. He did everything himself, you know, to use it as a tax write-off, to save money. Then Diary of a Mad Black Woman was pretty much like the first big hit. Then after the movie, the transition, you know, he made the transition from, you know, stage plays to, you know, movies and TV. And when he, like he said, you know, the TV shows, the movies, none of that was in the original plan. He just focused on doing a successful play, and then the rest followed. So what really stuck out to me was his whole thing about, if you plant too many seeds, you're going to spread yourself too thin. You're not going to have enough resources. You're not going to have enough soil, sunlight, you know, water. Focus on one thing, cultivate that, and then the rest, basically, focus on planting one, like one tree, and then eventually a forest will follow. Or, plant, one tomato, then you'll be able to reap a harvest, something along those lines. It's been a while since I watched it, but, I think about that, and I really thought about it hard, because I had to check myself in terms of, was I being too hard on Tyler Perry for, I felt like I felt betrayed, I've been with the haves and the have-nots since episode 1, not even counting If Loving You Is Wrong and his other shows, but just for that show, I felt like, man, that's Tyler Perry's masterpiece. This is outside of Medea, his stage plays, his predictable plots, his comedies. This is a legitimate show to get other networks to take him seriously. Not to say they didn't take him seriously before, but I'm talking about, like, if for those people out there who only saw him as the guy wearing a wig and a dress and, making the same movies and plays repeatedly, he silenced them all by coming out with this one serious drama that was a hit that made, like the #1 rated show every Tuesday night, even with competing shows like American Idol and stuff like that. I can't remember exactly what shows it was up against, but I know at one point, if not, not even counting now, the Haves and the Have Not was up against some steep competition on Tuesday nights, but it was able to outshine them. But I thought about what he was saying, and he said that like he really just wanted to do one successful play and the rest follow him, because at one point I felt like he was being hypocritical. It's like, you got on this video a couple years ago telling us about how we shouldn't spread ourselves too thin, but now look at you, you had something great, but now you're working on so many other projects that original seed you planted that grew up into a tree, you're letting it wilt and die because you're worried about all these other plants in your forest or garden. But then I thought to myself, well, to be fair, he did say that he originally wanted one play. That's pretty much it. And after that blew up, the rest just follow, like the movies, the TV shows and whatnot. And he's just doing bigger and better things. But I thought to myself, let's say hypothetically, if the Haves and the Have-Nots comes to an end in 2020, like let's say hypothetically the show has its finale, there's no movie, he never brings it back, like this show is gone, like the Jeffersons or Good Times or All in the Family, Mama's Family, it is gone. The Dick Van Dyke Show, Bewitched, it's gone. There's no it's gone. And I'm wondering what to do with my channel, and I think to myself, instead of like doing more Tyler Perry content, why don't I change over to something along the lines of, Empire or The Bachelor or, these reality shows, do reaction videos. In a way, I could see my original fans being like, yo, man, how can you do this? You started off with Tyler Perry, now you branched off to doing like anime and movies and whatnot. But when I think about it, if that were the case and my channel blew up, even like if my channel jumped from like 25,000 subscribers to 75,000 subscribers before the show ended, because I did a couple of breakout videos doing things about Empire or This Is Us or a Black Lightning, I'm not going to lie, if those videos on those shows blew up more than the Tyler Perry videos, I would probably just revamp the channel on that. And you're probably wondering, what? How can you do this? Because the Haves and the Have-Nots made you. And that's what got the channel started. But at the end of the day, as a content creator and what I do as a living, I would be like, well, I can either focus my attention on these new areas of content that are bringing in a lot of ad revenue, or I could just focus on the thing that got me started but not make as much money. Because in my mind, I'd be like, well, I can do something fresh without feeling so constricted, as opposed to sticking with doing the same thing forever. And when I thought of it that way, I'm like, okay, that actually does make sense. It's just like, another example, New Edition, more specifically, Belle Biv DeVoe, Mike Bivins, was like a executive in the music industry, and he started Boys to Men. And, he was making bank with that group. They were setting records and whatnot. And then when it was time to do the Belle Biv DeVoe Hootie Mac album, the group for the first time, those three guys didn't have the chemistry they did with Poison. So that album really kind of tanked. And, the attitude of Mike Bivins, he really wasn't feeling doing a Bell Biv DeVoe album because, again, when I spend time focusing on, the BBD album because Poison blew up and then do a follow-up album, but I'm not really feeling it because what I'm working on now as a music executive, I'm making all these hits and getting all this money. Which one would you go to? See what I mean? So in a way, I understand Tyler Perry, he was in what, TMNT 2, he was in the Boo Madea movies, Acrimony. I really wanted to mention that in the video because it is Friday morning when I'm recording this. So far on Rotten Tomatoes, that movie has a 78% score. And if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. I'll have to go back and check. I might check back after the first week of the movies and box office, so fans can also get their reviews. That's probably, if that has to be way higher than his Madea movies because almost every Madea movie that comes out tanks with critics, but it just kills it at the box office. It just kills it at the box office. So same rules apply. It's like, is it about the quality of the, all right, would you change, like literally, just think about yourself if you were in that position. If you were making a product that wasn't really the same quality as when you started out, but it's making you way more money, would you go back to doing what you originally did and not make as much? Or would you just make something because people will go out to see it? Because at the end of the day, yeah, the original fans may not like it because, as I said before, when I saw the Boom 2 movie, I didn't get as many laughs as I thought I would because most of the jokes were recycled. I mean, I was one of only maybe 5 or 10 black people in the actual theater, mostly white people, and they loved it. And that just goes to show that, he has a huge white audience. So the Tyler Perry fans who watched his plays from the beginning, like Family Reunion, Class Reunion, Goes to Jail, I Can Do Bad All By Myself, mostly black audiences from my understanding. So when he made that transition as like a crossover, like writer, director and whatnot, I felt like he started to lose some of us because most of his stuff was the same thing. And in some instances, kind of gives black people a bad image, whether it be black women, black men. And it just makes us look like a joke in some aspects. So I can see why, people will feel conflicted about his work. But as I said before, I highly respect the man for what he's done in terms of like his work ethics. And I wouldn't even, I was going to do a video on this particular subject, but I thought it was a bit too personal. Like I didn't want to say anything wrong. And then it seems like I'm attacking Tyler Perry. But I remember when it was announced that he was going to be a father, and I think he has if I'm not, excuse me, I think he's like a son that's maybe 2 or 3. I know he was born not too long ago. I think maybe a year or so ago. And I felt, I'm not going to lie, I felt some kind of way about that. And again, this was my original thoughts. I'm over it now, but I just thought about it. When I think about like the early Tyler Perry plays and movies and whatnot, I think it was the I Can Do Bad All By Myself. I forgot the girl's name, but it was the daughter of the woman who was in like this relationship with a rich guy, but he was real uppity. And I know at one point, the daughter kept going out of the house to meet up with some boy who apparently had a motorcycle. Then towards the end of the play, we find out this girl is pregnant. I think the joke was like, lock it up, chink, chink, lock it up. And basically meaning, hey, save yourself for marriage. Don't let no little boy that just comes up to you and says you're pretty, you just give it up to him instantly because, well, you don't hear I'm pretty, I'm beautiful enough at home. So when it turned out she was pregnant, this rich douchebag was like, well, your daughter isn't welcome in my home. And then, she ended up breaking it off with him like, hey, I can do bad all by myself. And I was like, oh, that's the title of the play. And, then Madea went on and was like, well, you know what, little girl, ain't no problem for you. You're going to be here taking care of that baby when you want to go out with your friends. No, if you can just lay down and leave your legs open, you can stay home and take care of that child. So, it really felt like, in the early days, Tyler Perry / Madea was really preaching about the whole, saving yourself for marriage, not having kids out of wedlock, things of that nature. So when it turned out that Tyler Perry was going to be a father to some, a child without even being married or engaged to this woman, I felt some kind of way about it, because I felt like, well, how can you be up here preaching to us about what to do when it comes to having kids and waiting to marriage, but now look at you. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm going to be kind of honest here. I'm waiting until I get married to have sex. I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm more than willing to wait. I feel like, it's something I really want to save for my future wife. But luckily, I didn't base that off of Tyler Perry's teaching. I mean, that's just my own personal choice. And yes, I'm a Christian, Baptist church. And to be honest, it is a personal choice. I'm not doing it because it's biblical or anything like that. I feel like it's just my own personal choice for what I want to do with my virginity. That's just my choice. So I know good and well, like, let's say when I originally saw that play, I think it came out when I was, probably when I was like in my middle teen years. And I would have felt really pissed off, if like, whoa, so basically I listened to what this guy or woman said, because he was Medea when he said it. So, hey, take it for what it is. So how are you going to tell me to save myself for marriage, not knock up any girl, yet here you are and you're having a kid and you're not even married to this girl? I think they're engaged to my knowledge, but they aren't married yet. So I felt some kind of way when I heard about that. And, hey, it is what it is. I mean, people change. It's kind of like Monique, she built her career talking about, skinny bitches and whatnot, but then she dropped all that weight, and it's kind of like, okay, so what? I'm really interested in seeing your stand. And this is before the Netflix thing, people. I'm just mentioning Monique here. It's like, how can I'm really interested in seeing what your stand-up routine is going to be now, because 95% of your original content had to do with like skinny bitches and how big girls are beautiful and whatnot. So what are you going to do now? And, with Tyler Perry, it's like, I think things change. You get to a level and you just maybe don't hold on to your original beliefs and whatnot. Taylor Swift, perfect example. Most of her songs were about, crushes, playing the victim and all the mean girls. And then she eventually kind of became one of the people she wrote songs about. So when you get to that certain level, she went from country to pop. So again, you just start off some way and maybe some things change down the road, like your morals, your beliefs, your standards, your quality. So what am I saying in this video? Am I saying Tyler Perry is a sellout? Not really, because to be honest, if I were in that position, I would feel kind of conflicted, because with the OWN, it felt like, again, I don't know all the details. I don't know if anything happened bad behind the scenes, because to me, Oprah and Tyler Perry kind of remind me of brother and sister, whereas like Oprah is like the sister. Hey, I got this network starting up, and it's like, hey, don't worry, sis, I got your back. Let me help you out. So Tyler Perry kind of jumped on board because, it was advantageous for both Oprah and Tyler in terms of Oprah's getting her own network started. She needed some great content to get the channel going. Tyler Perry helped her out. But at the same time, the haves and the have-nots were created. So by doing so, that opened him up to a new audience, where people can actually say, okay, he's more than just a dress-wearing, wig-wearing, cigarette-smoking Medea. And that opened the door to, I'm guessing, Too Close to Home on TLC, where they got their first scripted drama. And, more movies and projects, and then eventually maybe a bigger deal with Viacom, because I'm guessing him and Oprah had an understanding where it wasn't a permanent thing. It was like, let me help you get your channel off of your feet, and, eventually I'll move out and do my own thing. But, assuming Viacom didn't show up in the, world of Tyler Perry, I don't know what would have happened. I don't know if he would have stayed with OWN. I don't know if he would have branched off to his own channel. Not to say that he doesn't have enough content to do so with all of his sitcoms, drama series, movies, and plays. He can have his own network. We all know that. But I just think about the fact that maybe the Viacom deal was so big that it just led to him doing more projects. So even though the haves and the have-nots is kind of like originally, I feel like Diary of a Mad Black Woman is the flagship in terms of his plays. House of Pain was the flagship in terms of his television series, but I feel like the haves and the have-nots is that thing that really pushed him over the top in terms of, hey, you know what? If you want to see me do something outside of my normality, whether it be Medea, comedy, let me show you I can be dramatic as well. And boom, there he goes. I feel like his first branch off of that was If Loving You Is Wrong, but I never felt that show really measured up to the haves and the have-nots. It has had its moments, but I never feel like I feel like the haves and the have-nots is something that's it's like on the Mount Rushmore of Tyler Perry. You have like Medea, you have the haves and the have-nots. You know, I'm not gonna lie. I would say House of Pain is probably on that Mount Rushmore, and another movie. I can't think of another movie. I want to be honest. Acrimony seems like it might climb the charts because the fact that the reviews so far have been pretty decent. We'll just have to wait and see how this first week goes. But I feel like Tyler Perry is definitely, you know, doing bigger things. You know, maybe I feel like the Viacom deal probably allows him to have way more flexibility. Like he's probably able to work on new projects he's been wanting to do for quite some time, but he was restricted to OWN. You know, new shows, new movies, new projects. So sad to say, and again, nothing is confirmed. This is just my thoughts here. Sad to say, but it would not surprise me if the haves and the have-nots does fizzle out at some point, because maybe he's just trying to make it to the finish line. That could explain why the storylines are so dragged out, because he's busy working on other films, other projects that he's pretty much, you know, finishing up his favor with Oprah in terms of, you know, I said I'd do this stuff till 2020, so let me just stretch out these shows until we get to 2020. Then that's it. Then I can focus on doing all these other new things. Kind of like, you know, Michael Jackson started off with the Jackson 5, but then it got to the point where I don't remember that last Jackson album was just terrible. What was it? The Victory album? It was kind of like, you know, the Jacksons just trying to milk off of the Thriller, of the success of Thriller, you know, after Motown 25, and that album was just so just because everybody was trying to shine on the album. There wasn't really a lot of camaraderie because everyone felt like, you know, Michael blew up, now I can do the same thing. So that album really didn't have that same level of quality that the Triumph album did. Or was that the same one that Shake Your Body Down? I remember like Shake Your Body Down, Enjoy Yourself, pretty much, you know, their big album with Sony. No, wait, was it Sony or dang, what was that? I forgot. Crap. I think it was Sony. I forgot. Basically, you know, after they left Motown, I forgot what the record company was named. I feel stupid because I actually just watched a Michael Jackson special a couple nights ago. You know what? I'm going to be mad because as soon as I finish this video, then it's going to pop in my mind and I'm going to be so pissed off. Crap. What the... You know what? Forget it. Let me just forget it. But basically, what I'm saying is, you know, Tyler Perry, when it comes down to it, the haves and the have-nots, you know, at the end of the day, if the show does end, I feel like that's just going to be a milestone in his career. Like, that's definitely something people will be talking about even after he leaves this earth, because that show was just fantastic. It is sad that the quality of the show has gone down a lot. I mean, if you compare, like, season 4 to, like, season 2 or season 1, you can tell the show is not what it used to be. But I really do wish him the best. I feel like he is definitely going to be making great content in the future. Again, I feel like at the end of the day, Viacom is really going to allow him to stretch his creativity out even further. But that could be either a good thing or a bad thing, where I feel like, you know, I'm going to be honest here. More Michael Jackson comparison. I feel like the haves and the have-not is his Thriller. You know, like his his Purple Rain. Is it possible for him to top the show? I honestly do think so, because Tyler Perry, you know, we have no idea what goes on in that mind of his. And as I said before, Viacom, we don't know what the extent of his deal is in terms of like the money, the freedom. Maybe because the have and have not was such a big hit, he can create something even bigger. I do feel like it is a possibility, but it's going to be a very, very tough act to follow. Not just for Tyler Perry, but also for fans, because I feel like fans will be like, you know, anything Tyler Perry creates, it's going to be compared to the haves and the have-nots. So like Michael Jackson, if he tries to outdo himself, he's either going to burn himself out, or he might work on something completely different. For all we know, we might not see another drama like this again. Maybe this was the big thing to get him moving on to another network. So we don't know what's going to happen. But the fact that Acrimony seems to be doing well so far, and again, give it a couple weeks. Let's just see how well it does in the box office and reviews. That could lead to even more movies. Cause I do believe he's doing another movie later this year. If I'm not mistaken, Tinka Sumter and Tiffany Haddish are going to be in it. I don't know the name of it. I forgot what it was. Did they even announce the name? I do know the Madea family funeral is coming up this year. I'm actually excited to see it because Eddie from If Loving You Is Wrong is going to be in it. But with that being said, just kind of wrap things up here. I didn't mean to hold everybody so long. I just wanted to kind of just openly talk about Tyler Perry. I am disappointed that his shows have lost quality because it seems that he's spreading himself too thin due to the quantity of the different projects he's working on, whether it be plays, movies, TV shows, because I was rocking with this show from the beginning. So to see it fizzle out towards the end is disappointing, but who knows? The trailer for May 1st does look phenomenal. Maybe he's going to surprise us all with some great end of season action leading into 2019. I mean, we're not even halfway through 2018, but time is flying. Let's just be honest here. So I hate to sound negative in these videos because to me, I make it sound like the haves and the have-nots is dead before it's even finished. But to be honest, a lot of fans feel the same way because when fans every single week talk about how this episode sucked, nothing happened, it was the same dialogue over and over, that shows. But the thing about it where I don't want to be a hater is the fact that I can get behind this mic, I can voice my opinions, not just my opinions, but also the opinions of many other viewers, and we could just talk about it until we're blue in the face. I mean, yeah, I make, I get views, I get revenue, but hey, that's how I make a living. But no matter what, and again, I don't want to say this to be harsh, like not just Tyler Perry, but all these other stars out here, we can complain all day and feel cheated because for good reason we do feel cheated, but he's over there working on another project. He's making bank. And what are we doing, So whenever I get behind this mic, I try not to be a hater. That's why I did this video to show a different perspective where it's me kind of putting myself in Tyler Perry's shoes. If I were Tyler Perry, would I, keep doing what I was doing in the beginning or move on to these other projects and make more money? It does suck for people who was rocking with him to begin with because we feel betrayed because it's like, well, you're working on this other project that I'm really not interested in. Like, I could see one of his new movies and whatnot, and it could be good, but I'll feel cheated because it's like, well, the time you spent working on this project, it was decent, but I'd rather you have spent that time on the haves and the have-nots. One more analogy before I quit, Teen Titans Go, perfect example. I love the Teen Titans cartoon, the original one on, Cartoon Network. I think it aired on Toonami. I don't know. I know it was like, Teen Titans, love that show. I got the whole series on DVD. My nephew, he's 7. He was watching Teen Titans Go when it first came out. I was against it at first. I'm just like, man, instead of making this trash, why not make like a season, how many seasons? Season 6 of the original Teen Titans, because that one had a character growth. It had a good storyline. Even when I was a kid watching it, I knew this show was, this show was sophisticated for its time and it's going to hold up. Now, Teen Titans Go is just wacky. The characters are nothing like their original series counterparts. But at the end of the day, that show is making bank. It is selling so much merchandise. There's a movie coming out this summer. I'm not going to lie. Some of the songs are great. I get a few laughs out of it now that I have let go of my disdain of it. I'm not saying I love the show, but I actually enjoy watching it with basically because me and my nephew bond whenever we watch it. But hey, Cartoon Network is like, yeah, you can do original series. But as I said before, I was a fan of the original. So I felt cheated when they made this trashy version of the original just for the sake of making a quick buck, because you can flip on Cartoon Network nearly any day of the week, any time of the day. I bet you Teen Titans Go is going to be on. There's a marathon for no reason at all. I feel like that's one reason people hate it so much, because it's always on. It doesn't feel like it's a show you should value or treasure in terms of, oh snap, I got to get home by 7 o'clock because Teen Titans Go is on. No. It's going to be on for the sake of being on, and that's what makes it suck. So with that being said, I want to stop right here. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. do you feel cheated that Tyler Perry has pretty much put these shows to the side? I remember on what was it, Jimmy Fallon? I think that was yeah, he was on there recently a few days ago talking about when he Blue Ivy was putting up the paddle at the auction for like $19,000, but I think he beat her for a Sidney Poitier portrait. And he talked about how when he goes on different vacations, I think he goes to like the beach where he wants to write something, lighthearted or happy. But when he wants to write something dark, I think he said Wyoming or something like that to visit some of his family. If he wants to write something dark and sad and full of drama, I'm like, oh, okay. Because I do remember like during the first early seasons, like the haves and the have-nots, he would do like Instagram posts and whatnot, or like sitting on the beach writing a story. It's like, oh, you won't believe what I got in store for Veronica in the next season. I was hyped, but now it's like, oh well, you're just going to do the same thing over and over again. So hopefully Tyler Perry will give us one heck of a conclusion, and I might do a separate videos where I do one talking about the haves and the have-not movie, and then one where I talk about how would I like this series to end. So with that being said, thanks for rocking with me. We're almost 40 minutes in, so if you made it this point in this video, thanks. I really appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, because I do have more content on the way.